Hey everyone, in this video we're going to go through just the solutions to this time smoothing mini test. I wanted to do a video because some people are still having trouble with smoothing on a graph. So for this one, there are the answers for the first part. It was done quite well. So minimum was 13, max was 33, and the temperature was 17 degrees on day 4. Part D, we had to do 3 median smoothing. So when you're doing smoothing on a graph, you're doing only, come on, you're going to move, only odd point smoothing. So we've got 3 for this question, but you could do 5. You could also do 7 or 9, but 3 is probably the most common. So we're doing 3 for this one. All right, so I've got a little box here in green just to make it a bit easier to see, and I might just make it a bit bigger. Now, when we're doing smoothing, we have to smooth the X values and the Y values. So we've got to kind of think if this was on a table. So if it was on a table, we would have our X values and our Y values. All right, and I'm not going to do this for the whole table because this video would take forever. All right, so let's just have a look at the first, maybe, let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've obviously got more than that, but we'll do the first 6 values on the table. So let's just remove that for a sec. All right, so when X equals 1, all right, which is down here, if you ever need to, you can just write on your grid to help you, on your axes, I should say. All right, so when X is 1, Y is, oh, what is that, around 20 and a half? All right, and then when X is 2, Y is 26. Then when X is 3, Y is, what is that going to be, about 13 and a half? And then when X is 4, Y is 17. And then at 5, we are at 25. And then at 6, we are at, 26.5. And then you could keep going. But if you're smoothing a whole graph, this is a very long way to do about it. So you go about it. So you do really need to do it on a graph. All right, so I'm going to show you how to do that in a sec. So let's just think of our tables, or doing it on a table. All right, so our X values are always in order. All right, because when we go from left to right, our points are in order. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So the middle value of the first 3, so we're just looking at the first 3 values, is 2. All right, it's easy. It's already in order. But then when we look at the corresponding Y values, all right, the middle value is 20.5. So when I'm doing the point, my first point for 2, I'm going up, all right, and it corresponds to this point here, all right, which is not 20.5, it's 21.5. Oh gosh. 21.5. Doesn't actually matter what I'm writing here because, I mean, it does a little bit, but we're doing it graphically. All right, so my middle X value is 2. All right, so we don't have to reorder that. But when I'm looking at the graph, I'm just looking at the first 3 points. So you can get your ruler, and I don't have a ruler here, so maybe I'll just get another shape. Let's do one of these. You can get your ruler. Let's just say that's your ruler. And we're going to move it up. All right, so we're just looking in that green box. It hits the first Y value, and then there's your second Y value. That's the Y value in the middle. All right, so we put that point on. All right, it's 21.5, but it's irrelevant for this question. All right, we just need to match up the point, and then there's your highest point. So we're just looking at those 3 points. So going in the X direction, so let's just say we moved our ruler. All right, it's already in order. There's your first, there's your second, there's your third. So your X equals 2 is your middle value. All right, it's easy. It's already in order. It's the Y's that are a bit difficult. So you can just go, if it helps, go up 1, 2. There it is. 2 is going to be the second point is going to be your middle value. All right, so then if we went along and did the next lot of 3. So I'm just going to get rid of that pink box and let's do the same thing, but we're going to do it for the next 3 values. Excuse me. All right, so 3 is the middle. And then we've got 13.5, 17, and 26. Obviously 17 is your median. So with my box, if I did it visually, I just move across to the next 3 numbers. All right, so I've got my second, my third, and my fourth point. Get my ruler, and I go up. 1, 2. Then I've hit it. So then I put my next point here. All right, to correspond with this one. All right, so it's still at X equals 3. So I'll just move my ruler. All right, it's still at X equals 3, but the corresponding Y value is this second point. All right, so we've hit, in just looking at this green box, 1, 2, and then there's the third point up the top. So doing a whole time series graph is extremely time consuming. Usually on an exam, you don't have to do the whole thing, but it's good practice to actually be able to do a whole time series plot like this. So then we move the box over just to the next 3. All right, so now I'm including day 3, day 4, and day 5. So if we go back up here to my table, stop highlighting that. I've got day 3, 4, and 5. So notice how I'm just moving 1 along each time. All right, so getting my ruler. All right, so we're doing point number 4 this time, and I'm only focusing on the points inside my green box. So there's my first point, there's my second point, which is the same as the previous one, which is fine. All right. If we have a look at our table here, you can also see that 17 is your median. We've got 13.5, 17, and then 24.5. And sometimes the middle value is the same point. All right, and we can see there, that's why I drew that blue dot on top of the black dot, because it's actually the same. All right, let's move along one more. All right, 4, 5, 6. All right, so moving the green box over just 1. All right, so there we go. And then I get my ruler, I go 1, 2. There it is. I've hit that middle point. So that's where it's going to be drawn. And we can see that is 0.25. Yes, matches up. Good. So it is time consuming doing a table of values. All right, but if you only had to do a few, you could easily do a table of values if it's going to help you. But I would suggest you need to do something to isolate the 3 points. So obviously you can't have a moving box like I can, because you don't have a digital SAC or a digital exam, but just isolating the 3 points. So the next one is going to be this point here. All right, and then we just keep moving along 3 at a time. Get our ruler, 1, 2. So it matches up. Oops, put that in the wrong spot. Matches up to here. So for your X, we're always just going along 1 at a time. It's the Y that you need to work out. So that's why I'm getting my ruler and going 1, 2, and that's your third point there. So the middle point is this one. All right, so we've got to correspond to day, I think we're at day 7 now. So day 7 corresponds to this point here, which is 26.5. Then you can just keep moving one by one. All right. Now, I don't use a green box when I do it by sight, but it is extremely time consuming. All right, so we go 1, 2, and then we've hit it. So it's here. So let's say if it was an exam question and it said smooth it for, I don't know, let's just do, I need to scroll. Let's do day 20. So you just need to somehow isolate the 3 numbers for day 20. So day 20 has to be in the middle, and then we've got day 19 and day 21. So using my ruler, the corresponding Y value would be that at day 19. So my dot would go just a little bit above. All right, so day 20, it's around 15.5, let's say, and then day 19 was at 16, so that's why my dot is at 16. If we had to do it for one with a peak, like this one up here, so let's do it for, what is that, day 24, I think, day 23, sorry. Whoops, let's just move over a little bit. All right, so just isolating the 3 points. So I've got 23, so day 23, and then 22 and 24. So we go 1, and then it hits it there. So there's my corresponding point. So you can see how smoothing kind of eliminates those peaks. All right, I'm just going to show you one that I did do earlier, if I can see it. All right, this is one I did earlier, just because it's going to take me forever if I spent the whole video just doing this smoothing. But you need to be able to smooth on a graph. All right, so if you're doing median smoothing, it is so much easier. The recent Northern Hemisphere exam had mean smoothing, which was very mean, but you often see median. So it's either 3-point or 5-point smoothing. So make sure you can do that, even if you have to, in your bound book, annotate the steps. All right, just looking at questions E and F. Now I noticed with E, I saw that quite a few of you had the same statement, which was, there was nothing wrong with it. So if you had something along the line of, it limits the influence of peaks and troughs, which allows us to see the underlying trend. That's what I just thought of. And then I noticed when I was marking the test that a lot of you had the same statement. So obviously it was in your notes. So I'm just going to read it from someone else's. So smoothing can help identify an underlying trend, not initially obvious due to irregular fluctuations or seasonality, which is great. So I think that's fine to write if you wrote something like that. So just making sure that we, something along the lines of we smooth so we can see some underlying trends. It gets rid of those peaks and troughs. And then a limitation or a disadvantage of smoothing. It is time consuming, yes, but we do have software that does the smoothing for us. If you're a statistician, so we don't need to actually spend that much time doing it. But basically, when we're smoothing, we can't smooth the points at the end. So with this question here, it was only 3-point smoothing, so we just missed day 1 and day 29. If you had 5-point smoothing, then we would miss 2 points. So the greater the number of smoothing, the more points you're going to miss at the end. So that's what I've just written there. So the points at either end can't be smoothed. This does depend on how many, the number of points to smooth. So if you had 2 or 3-point smoothing, you're going to lose 1 point at each end. If you had 4 or 5-point smoothing, you lose 2 points. If you had 6 or 7, 3 points, and so on. All right, this question here was done quite well. A lot of you could identify that it was seasonality. So you do have to say this type of trend. So whether it's increasing or decreasing. So if you're unsure, just have a look at what the peaks or troughs are doing so we can clearly see they're going down. So it's decreasing trend. And always check for seasonality. So if there's no seasonality, you can just say it's irregular fluctuations. But as I've told you many, many times, every time series plot has irregular fluctuations. You just got to check for seasonality. So when I did that, I noticed that they all happened in May. So this is over a 36-month period. So from 0 to 12 is 1 month. Sorry, 1 month, 1 year. Then we've got up to 24 is the second year and up to 36 is the third year. So I did notice that they all happened in May. So you've got to actually state that. Don't just say seasonality, but you've got to explain why it's seasonality. And that's because the peaks occur at the same time each year, which is in May, which on here is months 5, 17, and 29. All right, then we had smoothing with an even number of points, and it was mean smoothing. So when we're doing an even number of points, we have to do centering as well. So that's a lot more working than if we had an odd number of points, which is a bit annoying. But if we're doing it for April, so April's like the star of the show, it has to be in the middle. So whenever we're doing smoothing, whatever month or season you're smoothing has to be in the middle. So with April, if we were doing 4-point smoothing, it can't be in the middle because it's even numbers. So if we did that, it's not in the middle because there's 4 points. So we've got to do those 4, and then we've got to do the next 4, and then we do centering. So you'll notice with my pink underneath, so I did April and then we did October. So added the 4 values together from February to May, and then divided it by 4, and you get 165.65. And then we do the same thing, but from March to June, and we get this value. And then centering just means adding those values together and dividing it by 2. So whatever the number of points is, first of all, so if it's 4 point, divide by 4. If it was 2, divide by 2. If it was 6, you divide by 6, just making sure you've got 6 numbers there though, or 2 numbers if it was to mean smoothing. But when you're centering, you're always dividing it by 2, right? Because you've only got the 2 numbers there. I was about to say something. When you're doing it on your calculator, so if we're doing the first one, I just want to show you. So we're writing all these numbers. Just wondering why it's flashing at me. Always flashing. 147.2 plus 129.6 plus 179.6 plus 206.2. And we've got to divide that by 4, and we get that value that I already had. Now, 3 of these numbers are the same used again. All right, so we can just highlight it, drag it down, and it's only the first number that changes. All right, so you'll notice we don't use February now, we use June. So you can replace that with 155.2 and get your number that way. And then you can just say, all right, let's actually, because I know that a lot of people are going to do it this way. So we use that, and then you can just drag into here, plus. So the good thing about your calculator is you can copy things very easily, which saves time. And then we're dividing it by 2 because we're centering, right, and getting your number like that. So a few of you left that one blank, so just make sure you can do that sort of smoothing. The last question was done really well. So 7 mean smoothing was used. Which months would not have a smoothed value? So I'm just going to use a different color here. So let's look at the first 7 months. So going from January to July. So that means the first one that can be done is April, because April's in the middle. So we can't do it for March because there's no month here. All right, so if April's in the middle, we need 3 months either side for it to be 7 mean smoothing. So we can't do January, February, or March because there's nothing, there's not enough points on the left side, on the lower side to do it. So January, February, March, we'll miss out. At the other end, we can just do the 7 months there. So we're going from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whoops. July, August, September, October, November, December. All right, just going to do one more. So the middle month would be September, so it would have to end at September. So that means October, November, and December miss out. All right, so that's your answer there. All right, bye guys.